close and not in Parkview is because their HOA, all of them, are like $460 a month.
Oh my goodness.
Versus 236. So therefore, most people wanting that kind of a unit would rather be in Parkview and pay 236 than one of these others, and pay 460, which is also why they're listed at a lower rate, because people won't pay the higher price when they got to pay that much, HOA.
Sure. Yeah, that's close to double.
I wanted to point that out to you because there's one on the upper floor for sale right now in Parkview for $134, which is also a one bedroom like mine, although it is 50 square feet larger. And they're asking $134. Whether they'll get it, I don't know. But there has been a couple that sold for $125.
I see. Okay. Oh, this is helpful. I'm adding this to your file.
Whereas these other buildings are listing theirs in the 90s because people figuring out if I got to pay $450, $460 to an HOA, I'm not spending $125 on the unit. So,
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, because it's not like they're not $300,000 units. So that's a pretty high HOA. So that's the reason why I feel that I listed it. In fact, it's on the notice board at Parkview because you have to list them. I've listed it for 110, which I think is a realistic price in its current condition, because the interior could do with a paint of coat, a coat of paint, and the bedroom needs recarpeting. Now, if it was kind of it's just cosmetics, it doesn't need any repairs. Now, if it was like fixed up a little like that and looking prettier, then I think you could get 120 for it. But because it's cosmetically not as nice looking as it should be, I think 110 is a realistic price to sell it right now. But if you were to paint it and put some new carpet in it, make it look a bit better, I think you would be able to sell it for 125.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
So I just wanted to give you that information. If you look at these other buildings and see that they're listed lower, that's the reason why. Because it's not the same building. It's not Parkview Village. There's various buildings along that street, different condo associations that have similar units for sale.
I see. Okay, and I'm looking at the aerial map now, so I see what you're talking about. How in your cluster there, the Parkview Village is just like not a whole lot of units. There's other similar looking properties, but it's a whole different
Parkview Village has several little buildings in it.
Okay.
Yeah. It has like I said, I'm in building A, and it has several other buildings in it.
Okay.
But then that's it. Then the other condos down the street are different HOAs, different companies.
Understandable. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I saw it was showing up as being listed just for a short time in October. Is that the case?
Yeah, I listed it, and I got one offer right away, but the people pulled out of the contract at the last minute because they had a large dog, and they found out that they couldn't have a large dog in that condo, which I could have told them, but they never mentioned it.
Oh no.
And the realtor, I had listed it with a realtor because I was impressed with her. And 2 weeks after I listed it, she left the company and passed it on to someone else who wasn't interested in doing anything with it. And in a period of 3 months, I couldn't even get them to get the description right, let alone anything else.
Oh wow, that's frustrating.
So I was so disillusioned that I didn't get any more offers, and I'm not surprised because the realtor wasn't interested in doing didn't even return my calls or anything.
Oh my goodness.
And so that's when I started trying investors instead.
I see.
So,
Have you gotten anything in writing yet?
well, I've had 2 offers that fell through. And I think they were scams because their reasons were so totally bogus. The first offer was for $80,000.
Okay.
And they pulled out at the very last second, like the last day. And then I asked them, what's the reason? You wouldn't believe what they said. They said the reason was, well, we discovered it was a 55-plus community. I said that you knew that before you even made the verbal offer. It was in the information I sent you.
Oh
You
my
knew
goodness.
that right off the bat. So they said, well, we must have missed it.
Do you remember the name of the company by chance?
Yeah, right, it was right, something roof, got it here somewhere.
Oh, it's okay. I was just curious. That's unfortunate though. So they
Yeah.
basically said that they were the buyer, and then at the last minute they pulled out and gave the lamest excuse ever.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
And then they said, well, we would still be interested if you want to sell it for $35,000.
oh, that would make it more interesting. That's for sure.
It makes it, yeah.
For them, maybe not for you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Well,
horrible.
I was so disgusted at that point that I just hung up on them. Let me see if this is the, I need to get my glasses on. No, it's not. Yeah.
It's okay.
I might have thrown it away.
And I mean,
Anyway.
I'll shoot you. Oh, go
Then
ahead.
I got another offer from another investor. I tell you, I'm pretty soured. Their offer was 79.7, so it was only 300 short of the 8,000. My fault, I didn't read the fine print. Instead of a 15-day inspection time, they had in their contract a 30-day, and I missed that. So I had to wait 30 days, and on the 29th day, they pulled out.
Wow.
And I said to them, what's the reason? And they said, well, we wanted to ask some questions of the HOA, and we couldn't get a hold of them. I said, well, you didn't contact me and ask for help. Oh, well, we like to do things ourselves. So as soon as I hung up from them, I called the HOA, spoke to them immediately. The guy was very, very helpful, you know. There was no problem.
Wow.
So again, they were just lying. It was just a bogus reason, you know.
Yeah.
For some reason, they didn't want to tell me the real reason. They didn't give me a low offer, though. They just simply pulled out. So,
I mean, I can definitely tell you what happened, and it may be helpful to, helpful for, sorry, I don't know if that was me or you. I heard some.
yeah, I don't know if someone's trying to call me or what it is, but that's...
Okay. Sorry, just letting you know, it wasn't me doing anything on purpose. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it could be another call coming in, and I don't know how, on a cell phone, I'm not sure how to answer that, so I'll just let it go. If they really want me, they'll leave a message on voicemail.
No problem. Well, here, I'm gonna minimize this window. Okay, so here's what's going on. So you've been dealing, the people that are presenting themselves as investors, they're actually what are called wholesalers. Now, wholesaling itself, there's nothing wrong with it, and it like serves an important part in the marketplace if it's done ethically, right? So if they disclose what they're doing and everybody agrees and knows what they're signing up for, nothing wrong with it. And in a lot of situations, you know, it brings value both to the sellers and to the final investor buyers. But like basically what they're doing is they're playing middleman, right? But they're afraid to tell you the truth on what they're doing because then they're afraid that you're less likely to agree because a lot of them don't have the resources or expertise to actually like perform these deals and close them, right? And basically what happens is people, they'll watch some YouTube videos, or there's even, legitimate companies and offices that use, kind of some, not good tactics.
I got both these investors from a company called Clever Real Estate.
Ah, I see. Okay. And that might just be some sort of referral partner or something that does the marketing end of it. But what ends up happening is, they'll try to lock it up under contract, and if they can't resell their contract, either because they're incompetent or they offer too much money, then what happens is, they'll back out at the last minute. And I've even heard stories of people like moving their stuff out of their house or getting an apartment, and they show up on closing day, and it really wreaks havoc on people's lives if it's not done ethically. And I'll shoot you straight. Like, you've been very transparent and straightforward with me. Like, I'll take off my investor hat for a second and just talk to you like if you're my sister or my cousin or someone in my family, right? So
I wasn't going to go with another investor, but you guys called me.
Sure.
I didn't call you. You guys called me, and I thought, well, I'll see what happens for 2 or 3 days, and if I don't like it, I was thinking of going back to a realtor again.
Sure, fair enough. And that's definitely a valid option with your situation, right? With it being vacant, you being in another place, a realtor would be one way to go. Like, so an investor offer, like a real investor offer, unfortunately, is probably going to be tough to make work, because there's not a lot of upside on the remodel, and likely they would have to be lower than that like $80K mark that those other guys were promising you. So that may not be an option. And it's just tough because it's because there's an HOA. Condos a lot of times, professional investors won't go for those unless they already have a bunch in there, but it's just less appealing than like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, right? So that's the other option. That would be the quickest way, but it'd also be like the steepest discount. And depending on your situation, you may not need that. That would be more like if you just really had to sell now, right? Then that'd be something you could look into. Now there is a third option, and this would be something I would have to check to see if we could get an approval for. But there's times with properties like this that just need maybe some minimal cleanup and, painting like you were mentioning, and just kind of handyman type stuff.
It doesn't need any repairs.
Okay. Because that would be something where we might have an option to do what we call the concierge service. Now, I would have to look into this to see if this would be something we could get approved for rather. But that would be something where you get an in-between of, in between listing with a realtor and a cash offer, where you get like a hands-off.
Tell me how it works then.
Sure. So we would promise you a net amount, and that would be up to the decision makers to see if we could, if it would qualify, because they have to be pretty strict with the criteria, because we put money into the properties and we only get paid when the property sells. So basically what we would do is they would need to evaluate it, and if we got an approval, we would come in, we would offer you a net amount for the property, we would promise to handle any repairs, we would handle getting the property sold, where you didn't have to make any decisions, spend any money, lift a finger, spend a penny, anything like that. And we would earn our fee from a third-party buyer. So we would go in, we would do, what would be reasonable to get the maximum amount of money with the least amount of risk. And then we would handle getting it sold. And then, you would get your net amount at closing.
So I would have to wait till you sold it to the final before I got anything, is that right?
Correct. And it's normally like between a 30 and a 60-day process. So depending on your timeline, that may or may not be a fit.
Well, how do you know you're going to sell it in 60 days?
So we do an evaluation on the property, and we actually do these deals not only in Florida, but like in markets all across the country at a relatively decent scale. So basically, we gather all the information from you, which I already have in your file from the previous conversations. With a condo, it's a little bit easier too, because it's a more apples to apples comparison with what other similar, I mean, basically they do what banks and lenders do. They look at recent market data. In condos, we stay right inside that same development, because something could be one building over, but be significantly different, kind of how we were discussing earlier, right? So they would evaluate what would need to be done, you know, if it was a property that they had a high certainty we could get done. Because otherwise, you know, if we take on these deals and pick the wrong places, we end up putting money into the property and then losing money. And as a business model, that doesn't work out. So they're
So what happens if you don't get it sold in 60 days?
So that's why it's so strict on which ones we qualify. Because we would never want to put anyone in a situation where it doesn't sell. Now, if the worst case scenario, let's say we had a buyer under contract and the buyer backed out, we would have the option to then extend, or if you wanted to go a different direction, that would be fine. But that's one.
So in other words, no matter how long it took you, I would have to wait until you had sold it to the buyer.
The 60 days would be a drop dead date. So unless you opted for an extension, then that would be the worst case scenario of it not selling.
So what would happen at the end of 60 days if you hadn't sold it?
So
I wouldn't get any money, right?
That's correct. That's correct. And we're very, that's one reason, both for your sake and for ours, you know, they're very strict. And normally, honestly, I don't even.
I don't see for me, I don't see the advantage to that versus putting it with a realtor.
Sure. And if that's a process, honestly, that may be the best bet for you. You know what I mean? Because for the people that opt for this, it's because they don't want to have to interview agents or put any money into it. Maybe they have something going on in their lives where it's just like.
Well, I can't put any money into it. First of all, I don't have the money. And secondly, being in Tennessee and the property is in Florida, it's too difficult. If I was still living in South Florida, I'd go in and paint it myself.
Sure.
But I'm not in a position to do that. So I can't put, you know, I can't have it fixed up. I can't afford to pay somebody to paint it. So I'm going to have to sell it as is.
Understandable.
And that's why I dropped the price down to 110 to allow for the fact that it needs a coat of paint and some new carpet. So, because
Understandable.
A coat of paint, a new carpet, it's not going to cost more than $5,000.
Right.
And I dropped it down from 125 from what the others were listed at to 110. So I figured that was a pretty attractive price. But no, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but
sure.
For me, I can't see there be any advantage at all for me doing that versus listing it with a realtor. Understandable. And normally I don't even bring this up. I was more, because, you know, the other options were looking like they definitely weren't a match. So I kind of wanted to do just kind of like a soft pass on this to see if it would be something that might be a fit if it got approved. But if it's something that, you know, you're not looking at it as a match, honestly, no big deal. No big deal, because it's the hardest one for us to get approved anyways. So basically, investors are looking for something around $50,000 that they can then sell for $120,000 and make that kind of money on.
Well, it's hard to say. I think part of it is it's just more fitted for a owner occupant than it is for an investor. Like a lot of investors stay away from 55 plus, you know what I mean? And it's tougher, like condos in general are tougher for a professional investor just because you're dealing with HOAs, which are essentially like their own government. And yours is low now, but there's no saying what could happen in the next 5 to 10 years. So that could be part of it is, you know, like you're looking for the the result of an investor offer, but it's just the supply demand curve on there is a little skewed, just because it's more fit for someone that's, you know, looking for a nice place to move into and have the amenities.
Yeah.
So an agent honestly may be the way to go. Now, just out of curiosity, if you did have an offer where you didn't have to deal with any agents, it was essentially like a hands-off experience where, you know, if it were approved, you had a high degree of certainty that it was going to get done. And if, you know, you could just save that mental bandwidth of having to be involved with the process. I mean, what do you think your main reason would be for going that direction?
Well, because how you just described it, I could be sitting here marking time for 60 days and then be no better off than I am now.
Certainly.
You know, you can't, you didn't sell it for what you wanted for, so I have to pull out of the deal and I'm back to square one again.
Certainly. And that after your past two experiences,
which would be the third time of going back to square one.
Sure.
So,
sure.
So I have to, at least if I had it listed with a realtor, I'd feel I was moving forward a little bit.
Understandable.
You know.
Understandable.
There would be showings, there would be ongoing stuff going on. I wouldn't just be marking time for 2 months and then have to start all over again.
Absolutely. Well, I could put it this way. One thing that would show you that we were serious is we would be investing money into the property to get it up to a showable condition, right? Because here's the likely person that's going to move in there. It's going to be someone 55 plus, right? And likely they're going to be getting either Social Security or some sort of pension. You know what I mean? They're looking for an affordable place in a good area. And there's a good chance, since, you know, even the $200 difference between the two HOAs means a lot, right? Because that's like what, $2,000 a year, and over 10 years is 20 grand. Like, it adds up, right?
Yeah, well, 450 for somebody on Social Security is too much money.
That's a lot of money. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So something to think of is the likely buyer is probably someone that wants somewhere where they can walk in, put their clothes in the closet, hook up their computer and their TV, and hang out. You know what I mean? Where
exactly.
There's likely
another advantage is that it is on the ground floor.
Sure.
Because the ones on the upper floor, there's no elevator. You have to walk upstairs, and some older people aren't, you know, don't want a place where they got to walk upstairs to their front door.
Understandable, yeah, and especially if it's their long-term place. You know what I mean?
That's
They're
right.
planning for the future too. So something to think of, if this was something where someone went through, added some value to it, where someone could just walk in there right away and feel at home, like it's painted, it's got the carpet, and it's maybe even like set up in there. That could be the fastest path to getting this sold, because otherwise we need someone that has a vision and also the means to put some money into the property, which at this price point, likely that's going to be an advantage.
So what happens if you put some money into the property, you put $5,000 in or something to spruce it up, and then you don't sell it in the 60 days? What happens to that money that you put in?
Sure. So the way that we set it up, and I'll be honest, we may be getting a little ahead of ourselves because I'm not sure if I can get approval, but I want to answer your questions too, right?
Yeah.
So what we normally do when we put in money into the property is we set it up normally as a promissory note. So basically, once we put the money in, we're committed to getting the deal done. Now, obviously, we haven't gotten to this position to be able to do these deals nationwide.
No,
And
but what happens after the 60 days if you don't sell it? Do I have to pay you that money back?
we would just continue forward until the property was sold. That's basically the short answer. And then if you wanted to go a different direction, we would just need to be reimbursed for what was put in there. But obviously, we're not in the business to do repairs and get reimbursed for them. It's a really bad business model. Like, we're not contractors or anything like that. And here's the thing, like, normally with these properties, we'll put in less than a few $1,000s. Little things like painting it, carpets, things like that, where it's an easy, low risk investment that has a high impact on the sellability. That's the types of things we do. We're not gonna go in there and tear this place apart and make it into something different. We would just be doing minimal things to get it sellable.
Right.
So that would be the thing where there would be trust involved, right? Because it would be a lie to tell you anything's a guarantee in real estate. Even with, I mean, I've seen it time and time again from doing so many deals. You know, people walk away from signed contracts. You saw it with the other people, you know what I mean? Where they buried stuff in the contract, they didn't go through and explain everything. One thing I can tell you is if we do get an approval, we believe in the golden rule. So we will explain everything to you, just like we would want something explained to us or a member of our family, so everybody's on the same page. You know, we're in it to win it. We do not throw spaghetti at the wall, and that's one reason why we are so strict on our criteria, is because once we get going on this, we're committed to get it done. We owe it to you just as much as we owe it to ourselves and the company. But it would basically be you putting your trust in our team to pull this off and use our expertise, our network, our leverage, our resources to get this done as quick as humanly possible. So you have a whole team of experts, rather than just relying on one person to sell the deal. That's spread out between multiple properties. So we have a different person in each section of this that kind of handles everything. It's like a conveyor belt. So we get the economy of scale by how many deals that we do like this.
Okay, when you fix it up, how do you go about selling it? Do you list it like a realtor does?
Often we do work with top local agents, and we do utilize the MLS. Sometimes we do sell them off market, but just given this property in particular, and again, I'm just kind of a glorified information gatherer, but typically with these types of properties, it is best suited for an end user, someone that's going to go in, not an investor that has to make money, someone that wants to live there. So they probably will use the MLS, but that wouldn't come out of your end. So if there's any agents involved, you don't have to deal with them, you don't have to pay them, everything would come out of our end.
I see.
Awesome. So I'll tell you what I can do. I'm going to put this in, and I'll see if this is even an option, and I'll give you a ring back either way. And if it does end up, getting an approval, I can kind of explain what that would look like. And if for whatever reason, if it doesn't meet the, if it's not a fit, doesn't meet the criteria, I'll at least try to be helpful and point in the right direction. So.
Okay, we'll check on it and get back to me then.
Okay, and real quick, if we were able to make an offer where you didn't have to pay any commissions, fees, you didn't have to fix it up, it was 60 days or less, and just kind of like an ideal scenario for you, stress-free and easy, what do you think your bottom dollar would be for an offer like that?
Well, I was really looking for 80, but I would go to 75, but I wouldn't go below that.
I appreciate that. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. And it sounds like you're trying to be flexible and work with us here.
Yeah, if the offer was below 75, don't even bother telling me. Because I'll just go back to listing it with a realtor for 110.
I hear you. No, and I appreciate your honesty, and I'm going to be the same with you. I'm real big on transparency and telling it like it is, so we're going to get along just fine.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. So I'll give you a call back either way. I should be able to get a final answer either today or tomorrow.
Okay. All right, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm probably not going to do anything as regards listing it for a few days because I got to go out of town for 3 or 4 days, so I'll probably wait till I come back.
Oh, okay. Well, no problem. And I'm going to text.
Yeah, I'm leaving on Thursday, and so I'll probably be back the following Monday or Tuesday. So if I am going to list it, I got nothing. Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye. Cool. So 75,000. Now here's the thing. Instagram and YouTube. So you normally do not pitch a concierge service pitch like that. Okay, and I go over it in my training all the time. You don't want to pitch it like that in a call. The reason I did that was I was about to give up on this lead. This was like the last resort of like me giving up, and I wanted to do a soft pass on it to even see if it would be an option. Because I was running out of things to go for, right? So yes, you don't normally want to do it like that. But hey, just like everything, there's situations where it makes sense. I wasn't already on the phone with her for a very long time. She was a red personality. But there are some good gems in there. Different things that you can take and add to your call. So hopefully you got some value out of that. If you haven't done any deals with us yet, NovationJV.com. Okay, we got like 25 on the board right now. We're trying to get that number up, trying to get over 100 a month. Help us out, NovationJV.com. You get 40% just for sending your lead in. You get to connect us with your sellers. Your sellers are going to be treated like pure gold. We're going to do right by them. If we can get the deal done, they're going to leave happy. Okay, you get 40% just for sending it in. So tap in with us. Appreciate you guys. I'm going to do some more live calls today. So we got 2 signed on Friday. We're gonna try to get another 2 signed today. So that was my first call. I'll be hopping on here in a little bit more. If you're on my Instagram, you should check out my YouTube, because that's where I'm gonna put these calls once they're done, like the full calls. So cool, later.